Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Sunday Speaks. I, as always, am Cheyenne Severin, and today I'm here with.
Hailey, hello.
Hailey, you're a little different than my usual guests, so why don't you tell me a bit about yourself?
So, my name is Hailey. I'm currently a senior in college. I graduated in May, but I'm in a 4-1 program for elementary. I'm getting my master's in special education and inclusion and my bachelor's in elementary. But right now, I'm doing a math project centered around social justice issues in communities, based on like data and probability and statistics. So we were allowed to pick whatever topic we felt passionate about and kind of create some sort of community action plan centered around it. And so I decided to look into, alumni in recovery as well as like different organizations that raise awareness for the addiction problems and usage or misusage in Bergen County.
So, is this like a project that they require for your major? Is it just for a class that you're taking?
Yeah, so the class is for my major. It is for middle school math. And the basis of the class is to kind of teach us how to integrate social justice issues within our mathematics curriculum
Mm-hmm.
for students and just to kind of raise awareness around issues that might not necessarily be talked about within the classroom, but also it could also be interjected through the curriculum.
So, is that something that you personally experienced when you were in K through 12 or?
No, I mean, other than the standardized curriculum, we didn't really see anything regarding social justice issues beyond like the presentations or the outside speakers we would have come in through the administration. So there were a few like assemblies that we gathered around topics that centered around issues such as addiction or other social justice issues, but nothing necessarily involved in the curriculum.
So, what was it about substance misuse or like the area or anything that made you want to choose this topic for your project?
So, growing up, I definitely experienced and witnessed a lot of the misusage of drugs and alcohol in my life. Not me personally, but the loved ones that I have around me. And
Mm-hmm.
my aunt actually volunteers and works very closely with Alumni in Recovery and the Black Poster Project. So, she's been such a role model through like kind of the ability and the power of awareness. So, just since I've been little, I really have had like a drive and a passion for this topic because you really don't think that it's going to happen to you or somebody that you love until it does. And so, I kind of want to change that mindset a little bit and just, kind of get everybody aware of like the causes before it's too late.
Mm-hmm. So, I know that your project is still in the research phase and everything, but is there anything that you've learned so far that you found interesting?
Yeah, so I've actually had the chance to talk to a few people, Nancy being one of them, and we kind of had a conversation about like Narcan and its power. We talked about statistics revolving around usage and revolving around the successful administrations of Narcan. So that was one thing I never had really looked at before I started the project. I was kind of centered around like location, age, like the trends for usage. But then when we started to talk about like the trends for usage, but in relation to the successful administrations of
Mm-hmm.
Narcan, so that was something that shifted a little bit of my gear of my research project because having Narcan come into play, as much as it is like such a powerful and helpful tool for us as people who are trying to raise awareness, it's definitely something that shifts the data for sure.
So, just had a question in my mind. Oh, do you want to share a little bit about what the research process has been like for you, or?
Sure. So basically, I started out with coming up with a proposal because I do have to connect it to some sort of middle school math standards. So as much as I have free range to kind of create any sort of community action plan or campaign ad or project, I have to kind of interweave the mathematics curriculum into it. So I started with that to figure out like, okay, how can I get these standards to match my overall objective? And so I have a few standards that regard it comparing different distributions of data, stuff like that. So then when I got all of that together, I figured out, okay, who can I reach out to get me the most accurate, but also more than just numbers. I want to hear stories. I want to hear about the actual firsthand experiences. So that's when I contacted my aunt, who works very closely with both organizations. And I've had the opportunity to speak with Nancy. I've been using a lot of the Attorney General's data that's posted to the public because they don't really share a bunch of specific data regarding like ages and locations. It's more so like just overall numbers regarding counties and stuff like that. And then once I took all of that into consideration and the comments that Nancy was making in our discussion, I hopefully will continue to reach out to Dee and other members of the awareness community. So that way, gathering more firsthand accounts as well.
So having learned a little bit so far, do you think your perspective on anything has changed?
Yeah, I mean, like I was talking about with Nancy, we actually had a conversation regarding how much our society has changed with the waves of the usage. Like she mentioned how like we saw our first big surge in the 90s, and a bunch of kids growing up in that time got exposed to opioids and pills and stuff like that. And that was nothing that I kind of perceived as before. Again, I'm just 21, so I wasn't really around during like the first surge. I was just growing up into seeing what was happening. And like for me, my cousin being one of like those individuals growing up in that time, experiencing, those things, it was for me shocking in a sense that like that was our first big story. But we talked about that and also in regards to kind of like the trends for usage more so, which I didn't think about. I was going into this looking at location wise and thinking about, maybe there's like just specific locations in the county, but we actually went over like the dispersity of the county and how it's just more so related to trends versus like not the ability to get, more so like the feelings and the challenges that someone is going through.
So what other topics did you consider for this project before settling on like substance misuse, if any?
Yeah, so a lot of the examples that we were given were very baseline. They were like about like transportation issues to education, or they were about, the financial injustice of like sports teams in a high school. Some very just like basic topics. And as much as they are very interesting, like to get into and to talk about, there are things that I feel like people are okay to discuss with. And I wanted to kind of bring light to something that maybe not everybody feels a little bit comfortable bringing light to. So I was going through a bunch of different topics, and my community, it has to be based off where I live. And so I was trying to think of like different statistics and other things. And for me, this is just one thing that like, if I have the opportunity to talk about, I love to talk about because like me and Nancy said, when your voice does wonders. So as much as I can, I try. So this was kind of easy to settle on, especially because my aunt has so many outlets and I'm able to kind of connect into this community a lot easier than other communities. So it's pretty easy to choose.
So why do you think it's important to educate, like the future generation about these statistics and what we've seen and everything like that? Why do you think that's important to bring to the classroom?
I think that definitely, like what I said before, like growing up right now, like 21, just in the ripe age of where everybody's starting to get out of college and figure out who they are and stuff. I think it's clear that a lot of people or young individuals might not be aware of like the severity of, one small decision that you can make regarding substances. And right now we're seeing like 96 to 97% of the drugs tested coming back with fentanyl in them. And it's like, as much as you might just be, smoking with your friends or going to a party, like it's that one split decision that could change or alter something. So for me, it's more so about raising awareness of, just the dangers. I'm not here to tell anyone what they can or cannot do. More so, just open your eyes to the consequences or the situation that could arise from one simple action.
Hmm. Do you dorm at your college, or is it a community?
Yeah, so I did for 3 years, but right now I only have two classes on campus, so I'm commuting. Yeah.
So, was like substance misuse a big thing on your campus, or did you not see it too often?
So for the first 2 years, I really didn't see it. I didn't think that it was like a big thing. Again, it is a big campus, so my friends weren't doing it. I wasn't
Hmm.
really around anything. But then I would say right in the end of my sophomore year, they sent out a huge message to everyone that they were putting Narcan kits all over campus, like on every single post. So that way it was accessible to kids if they needed it, or if they, the Good Samaritan law is something that I'm going to talk about in my campaign as well. So just like if they saw something to do something. And that's where I kind of saw the shift where I was like, wow, like you don't really think that it's happening here. Until something like this is like, okay, well, it has to be happening here, and even if it isn't, like the school has to be prepared for it. So that was definitely my shift where I was like, wow, like, it's right, it's everywhere. And it doesn't discriminate. So that's for sure.
Hmm. So, like learning what you have, do you think there's anything that you're going to do moving forward, to like educate people or just to like be more conscious of it in your daily life? Like, what do you think are some changes you might make?
Yeah. So one thing I talked about with Nancy a lot was how a lot of schools take advantage of the month of October, and they use that as like their awareness month or their access point to, get students aware of the dangers of addiction. But for me, as like a future educator as well, I think it's important that, we talk about all the time that all these topics are discussed year round. It's not just something that we bring up for one specific day or one specific reason. It also doesn't have to be something that we specifically say. It could just be implied or visualized. It doesn't need to be something that, is constant, but just that overall reminder, whether it's a poster in the classroom or somebody to talk to, like as an educator, if a child is having an issue, I want to be there for them. And that's huge for me because I don't want to, before it gets too far, I want to be able to make a change and like make sure that it doesn't happen to anybody else.
Taking a step back, then just out of curiosity, why are you interested in your major? What makes you want to go into education in that field?
So ever since I was little, for some reason, I've just like had this inkling for young kids. And I know people say like, you don't love kids. Like everybody doesn't love kids. And it's true. Like sometimes kids can be a lot. But for me, I feel like, our voices do a lot, but we're so old to a point where it's like we are all our own people at this point. And if I have the ability to kind of make a change to our future generation that is coming, like you said before, how do I see myself making a change? Well, it's like in all of those little children, they're going to become us one day. And they're going to be able to change the world if I give them the opportunity to. And
Hmm.
so that's a huge thing, just allowing them to kind of be passionate about like topics like this and feel free to advocate for what they want to advocate for.
So that said, we are almost out of time, about 2 minutes. So, is there any last comment that you would like to leave off on? Any last message for everyone at home?
No, not really, but I just want to say thank you so much to everybody for this opportunity. Thank you, Cheyenne, and Nancy, because this has been wonderful, and I hope to continue to immerse myself in this community and get more people aware of the dangers and the, outlets for resources.
Thank you for being on with us today, Hailey.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.